Top Gun was initially just a very small cadre of instructors, essentially working out of a trailer in Miramar. The Navy saw a need for a school that teaches air-to-air. It came out of something known as the ALT report during Vietnam. The success of that school was proven by our success in Vietnam, and that school continued on and evolved, much as Navy and Marine Corps aviation has evolved over time.
In '96, the Navy reorganized some of our training programs, Top Gun included, and that was when we moved from NAS Miramar up here to NAS Fallon in Nevada, and came under the guise of the Naval Strike and Air Warfare Center. So it's kind of the Navy's centralized air combat training center. Top Gun is now part of that. As such, we're a department within the Naval Strike and Air Warfare Center.
The Top Gun program is broken up into 3 unique syllabus that all go on at the same time. We have the SFTI syllabus, which is the actual fighters that come through from the fleet. We teach them to employ the airplane the way it can be employed, and then they'll go back to the fleet as a training officer, either in the Navy or the Marine Corps. We have the adversary program, in which we have fleet aircrew come through. They'll go back and fly the adversary role, which is the red side or the bad guys. They work concurrently to set up presentations for the blue fighters going through the class. Lastly, we have the AICs. The AICs come through and they provide the control. AIC is Airborne Intercept Controller. They provide the control for the blue fighters so that they understand what the picture is out there when they're trying to employ. And it's all wrapped up into a 1 9-week syllabus.
All the students that are coming through the course now are flying some variant of the F-18. We have the F-18 A through D, which is what the Marine Corps flies. The Navy flies it as well. Now we have the F-18 E and F, known as the Super Hornet. So it's some variant of the F-18 is what the students, or we call them the blue fighters, the Top Gun fighters, are going through in that aircraft. When the movie came out, the F-18 was just entering service. It was essentially a brand new airplane. The F-14 was the Navy's primary aircraft for air-to-air. The F-18 has kind of assumed that role, and there's actually no more F-14s going through the course. There are a few F-14 squadrons left, and we actually have had students go through in the F-14 up until last summer. But now it's entirely F-18 centric, and we're going to train to that specifically. We also have here at NSAWC, or at Top Gun specifically, F-18s and F-16 to simulate the threat. Now the F-18 is a similar aircraft, so we'll use that to evaluate a person's capability, sometimes to fight one against one. We may have them painted up in a different camouflage paint scheme to simulate a threat or an adversary out there. We just recently got F-16s here on the staff as well, and that matches very well MiG-29, which is kind of our percentage threat, what we expect to face out there in the real world. We also have a Navy adversary squadron here that flies F-5s, so that brings even a third aircraft into the mix that can simulate threats that are out there in the real world. So it's going to be F-18s against an unknown type or number of adversary. And because we can utilize different aircraft to simulate different threats, we get a really good evaluation of how we might do against real threats in the real world.
In 1995, we reevaluated the way we were training throughout the Navy and the way we were using the Top Gun graduates. In those days, when I went through, we'd take a Top Gun graduate, send him right back to his squadron, and he would act as a training officer within the squadron. Since then, and since 1995, we've started taking the instructors and we send them to the weapons schools on the east and west coast, and then those guys help train the squadrons as well as man the staff here at Fallon. So the focus when I went through as a student was more on learning the technical part of flying and employing our aircraft, and then obviously the tactical portion of it. What we do now, which is a big difference, is we put a lot more emphasis on making guys good instructors. So in addition to a guy being a good pilot and knowing his stuff when it comes to tactics, he's got to be able to stand up in front of a group of guys in a brief or in a lecture and be able to be a good instructor and a good teacher.
December 17th, 1903, 2 bicycle makers from Dayton, Ohio did what man had been unable to do to that point. They actually outmaneuvered their fairly unstable Wright Flyer to perform the first powered flight. The flight only lasted 12 seconds, and it went 120 feet, but it launched an age. And only 66 years later, man would set foot on the moon.
The course is really, it consists of about 4 different parts. The first part, right when we get here, is all academics. It's for the first 2 weeks, you're in class for about 12 hours per day, 12, 14, sometimes a little bit longer, and it's all it is academics. There's nothing here that is the secret trick in the book. There's nothing that they're teaching you that you haven't been exposed to before in the fleet. However, the lectures that you get here and the academics are the best that you've ever had in the fleet. These guys are very good instructors. They know the material incredibly well, and they do a great job of teaching it. So that's really what we do when we first get here. You're just immersed in academics for the first couple weeks.
After we finish that intense academics, and we go right into a flying syllabus, where we start off with some air combat type of maneuvering, a BFM syllabus. But while we're doing that, we're also doing academics on the side. And what it all boils down to is after about 4 weeks of academics and flying, then we got to bring it all together.
We'll initiate the class with 1 against 1, the very basic dynamics of maneuvering the aircraft with a single adversary out there. Once they've mastered that, they'll go into 2-ship mechanics, 2 against an unknown number of adversaries, and by the end it's between 6 and 8 blue aircraft or friendly aircraft against an unknown number of adversaries. So you're going to see it's a pretty significant progression, a very dynamic environment, going from 1 against 1, finishing with 8 against unknown. And that's where the 9-week course will take them. By the time they're finished, they've been able to master their skills by the end of that.
We also train adversary pilots here. Those are guys we train to fly our aircraft and replicate threat aircraft.
When you're simulating, what a specific country, as far as their threat aircraft, you're also simulating the way the pilot flies. We've got a lot of information on the way we call them threat pilots, the way that they fly, and a lot of them are it's very strict in the way they can fly. They can't max perform their aircraft, so we mimic that as well. I mean, the F-18 Hornet can just do a myriad of things. I mean, it's an awesome aircraft, but we're mimicking a platform and the pilot and the way the pilot was going to fly that aircraft. So we don't go out there and once we see a guy, just say, okay, all bets are off. Here we go. Let's go have some fun. It's a strict profile, and we try to keep it as realistic as possible. Sometimes it's not that fun because you're just droning along and they tell you you're dead, and you're like, okay, and you just turn around, start again.
We're all type A personalities. You fly a lot of red. Sometimes you just want to win, and that's not necessarily what we're trying to teach. We're trying to teach good, sound tactics that we expect the threat to employ. And a lot of times that means if we do our job right, the red dies. So we're trying to teach them that discipline to make sure we're getting good presentation so we can hammer home really those training objectives that we have for each specific flight.
That course is not quite as long. They'll be here for about 6 weeks of the class. Typically, we're going to train about 4 to 6 of those guys per class.
Now, the AICs that come through are there to provide control. They come from various type of platforms. We get Air Force controllers from AWACS that come through the class. We have the E2, we have Aegis, we have Marine controllers that come through the class also, and they're there to provide us the control to, again, make a successful evolution happen airborne so that can correspond to when it really happens. They are on their A game because a lot of times the AIC is that important kind of cog in that wheel that makes everything happen.
Our first week and a half to 2 weeks, it's all academic courses. We learn about threat countries, surface-to-air tactics, their capabilities, air-to-air capabilities, threat pilot tactics, the planes, things like that. And then we also learn about our own fighter aircraft and their capabilities. After the academic portion, then we start the live flights.
The ASCs at the course here go through pretty much 2 different phases. They'll first go through a section phase, which is very limited in the amount of aircraft and threats that they'll be seeing. Usually be controlling 2 aircraft against 4 to 6 enemies at any one time. They'll go through a couple weeks of that, and then they'll go into what we call the division phase, which they'll be controlling anywhere from 4 to 6 blue aircraft or friendly aircraft against anywhere from 6 to 10 enemy aircraft at a time. So they'll go through those different phases, making the problems harder as they go through them.
A typical day, once we're really into that flying syllabus type thing, will be, generally speaking, have the morning brief, and like I had mentioned, usually about a 5 o'clock show time. We'll do some kind of coordination brief with the blue fighters, or basically the students who are going to take on the adversaries, which would be the red fighters. That coordination brief is fairly short. It's only about 5 or 10 minutes, and we just cover safety. But from that point, we go right into our own little blue fighter scenario where we talk about what tactics we plan on employing, how we're going to get our mission done, and we're going to talk about our main objective for that overall flight.
You're not always leading every hop. You're not always the guy in charge of every hop. Sometimes you're flying as a wingman, which is still very important. You learn just as much there. But if you're leading the hop, you've been prepping the night before. You'll come in, do your finishing touches, and you'll work with the rest of your guys that are flying with you that day. Put the finishing touches on it. Then you'll brief if you're the lead, and you're talking about all the particular contingencies and really just talking about the mission, how you're going to tackle this problem that you're probably going to see today.
So then after we do that brief, it'll probably be about anywhere from 15 minutes to half an hour prior to the time that they're scheduled to launch. We'll go into the room where we have the scopes, and we'll set up the scope for the mission. A lot of times we like to change things around. Everyone has their own way of doing things. Make sure that the radars are up and everything's good to go. And once we have that set up, we're just waiting for them to check in with us once they've launched.
You're going to wear 4 main pieces of gear. You got your G suit, and that's what goes on top of your flight suit, and it really mainly wraps around your legs. It's got inflatable bladders in there that when the aircraft is under G, it's hooked. It has a hose that connects into the aircraft, and it feeds air into those bladders, and it forces air into these bladders that inflate really around your thighs, around your midsection, and around your calves. And under G forces, it's kind of like that roller coaster ride. The blood is going to try to pull in your legs. Obviously not good under high G loads if all the blood runs out of your head and you can eventually pass out. That's obviously not good. So this helps to keep the blood out of your lower extremities and up towards your heart and really your head. The next piece of gear you put on is your torso harness. And that, if anybody parachutes, it's very similar to a harness you wear for parachuting. Basically, its job is it connects. It's kind of your seatbelt. It's got 4 connections, 2 here, 2 down here. And those connect in, and those act as your seatbelt or your harness, but they also act as those same straps that hook in on the top part of your harness are also the parachute risers if you have to eject, and that's connected right into the ejection seat. Along with that harness is your life preserver, and that inflates automatically on water entry, or it has beaded handles that you can pull, and that inflates it as well. The third part is your survival vest. That just kind of goes on top of the harness. It's kind of like just a little vest, and it's got all kinds of sorted items from, mirrors, smoke, flares, chiclets, radio, all that kind of stuff. And the last part, of course, is your helmet, and kind of integrated along with that is your oxygen mask. And, of course, helmet provides not only protection from getting your head bumped around, high-speed ejections, anything like that, but also has your visor for you and provides hearing protection, and is your earphones. And your mask is obviously your oxygen. So those are the big things. You put your gear on, get all ready to go before you walk out and finally walk to the jet.
Each flight, it's kind of a different mission, so it might be a different mindset. Either they actually want to intercept groups or they don't as much as possible, because their goal for that mission is to actually drop bombs and not intercept other fighters. So things change a little bit from each flight or each event, but the goal's always the same: meet the mission objective and get back safe.
Strike 72, Fallon Tower, runway 31 left at Echo Taxiway, wind 020 at 7, cleared for takeoff.
The AIC is a very integral part to the system. A lot of the pilots consider us the third or the fifth wingman, since we're giving them the rest of the essay that they can't get on their own.
The pilot or the aircraft that they're utilizing can only see so much of the sky, so they only see a certain piece of what's out there. So what we'll do is we'll have basically a bird's eye view of what's going on around us, and so we take that, we evaluate the picture, and we apply basically a comm format where we will just describe the picture verbally into the fighters' minds. And so we're just going to be up on a radio net passing along that information to that particular aircraft.
In a standard call, just to call the picture, we're going to tell them how many groups of bandits are out there, where they're at, the altitude, and we will also give them what we call fill-ins, something like which way they're tracking, if we know that they're hostile, or if we don't know what they are, then we'll also add that into a normal call.
The performance of each, either the controllers or the fighters, can make or break the flight out there as well. So the fighters can perform very well, but if the controller's having a bad day, then the entire mission's probably going to end up not going so well. Just as a controller can be having a real good day, but if the fighters aren't having a good day, then they're very likely to have things not go so well for them.
So the flight today, we were simulating a strike mission going into country, and we had 6 blue fighters, or 6 of us, and there was an unknown number of adversaries that we had to get through on the way to the target, which we were simulating today was weapons of mass destruction facility. So simulate fighting your way in there. Some of the guys will actually employ simulated or real ordnance into a target area and then fight your way back out of country. Once you do that, you may get another run if you have the fuel for it. If not, generally you'll land after about 1 hour and 15 minutes or so. And after that, the next part's where the real learning takes place. That's the debrief.
The blue players will go do their debrief, and the red players, the adversaries, they'll go do their debrief. And then that usually takes about an hour and 15 minutes.
The fighter element and the AIC will come together and kind of get our story straight. You know, this is what I saw and this is what happened. And we're just making sure that we're all on the same page, so that way when the bandits come in and give us their side of the story, you know, we're in agreement and we're not fighting each other.
And then you'll all meet back together again, all the blue, all the red, and you'll watch on a big tack screen the entire fight, listen to it on all the comms, and you'll just dissect it pretty much. Just take it piece by piece.
We'll utilize TACS as a debriefing tool, and really what it is we have a system that can track the position and the parameters of every aircraft that are out there, good or bad. And we'll utilize that information, put it up on a big screen, and have everybody who is involved watch. And what we can do, rather than reconstruct with arrows or try to verbalize what happened, we can sit and watch real time, kind of the adage of a picture is worth 1,000 words, or we're going to see the whole thing from a God's eye perspective and watch everything that happened. So if we see something significant happening in some place, we can zoom in on that, we can take a look at the ranges between the aircraft, what may be happening between the two, and utilize that information to determine were we doing the right things, were we going in the right direction, were we at the right altitudes, the right airspeeds, etc. And because it's a broad brush, we can see everything. We have the big picture. We can also zoom in and get the little picture as well and bring in a lot of real fine details and a lot of fine points that we might not have been able to realize was happening in real time, and it helps us assess whether or not we were doing the right things. And there's no secrets in TACS. Everything is up there and everybody watches it, so we know if the right things are being done for the blue side or for the red side for that matter.
Once we finish that mass debrief with the bandits there, then we'll go right into a comm review. And what a comm review basically is, now we'll listen to the whole brief again because it's played on tape, but now we'll just listen straight to what we were saying on the radios, if we said it correctly, and if it needed to be said or not. And this way we can just get better with our comm discipline. And then finally, after a few hours of that, once you're completely done, I shouldn't say completely, once you get towards the end of it, then we'll go to each individual tapes and we'll play the tapes and see how the radar worked and all that kind of stuff, and just to make sure, hey, are we actually employing the aircraft the way we're supposed to? Are we putting our radars where they need to be, where they need to be? Are we putting our bombs on target? And that's where it really comes out, the truth in what was your overall understanding of the flight. Were you able to execute you wanted to? And the tape doesn't lie, so that's where you get some great feedback.
So when the student will go through that whole process, and when all is said and done, when the student's finished, then the instructor will take over, go back to the preparation, talk about that, go back to the brief, discuss the flight and the debrief. So he's going to go through and evaluate everything the student had just done and critiques essentially everything he did from beginning to end, and that helps him get ready for the next step.
All told, from the time you brief till the time it's all said and done, it's usually about 6 to 7 hours, and that's for about a 1 hour hop. So it can make for a long day, and sometimes you're flying twice a day, so it can get long. On average, I'd say the days are about they're no less than 12-hour days. Usually they're about 14-hour days. So it's 9 weeks sounds like a short time, but when you're spending all your time here in this building and 14 hours a day, it gets long.
A very common saying, you fight like you train, train like you fight. So we always want to be ready and prepared and basically at the top of our game, if at all possible. So we're going to continue to train towards that. And whether it's during our inter-deployment training cycle or actually out there on deployment, your controllers, your pilots, and everyone that's involved is going to be actively trying to maintain their proficiency.
Air-to-air is a very depreciable skill. We talk a lot about situational awareness. You'll hear pilots talk about SA. SA really is built in the air-to-air arena, and that's where we can get those basic fundamentals down of learning SA. What is the overall big picture? What is happening on the battlefield? And a good way to do that is with air-to-air training. Now, just because in the past 10, 15 years we really haven't had to exploit that air-to-air portion of our training, doesn't mean that it's not important.
We haven't seen a lot of air-to-air engagements, not a lot of dogfights, obviously, in the most recent conflicts. There's a couple reasons for that. One is a threat, and two is that we're proficient to a level that there are very few people out there willing to execute on that same level as us. So we've essentially developed a level of proficiency that ensures that we're successful, sometimes due to the fact that we're not even challenged in that regime, which is a very good thing, and that essentially gives us the credibility to ensure that we own the supremacy that we need to in a conflict. We also train for the inevitability that that day may come again. We've certainly seen it in the past, and we certainly want to be prepared for it when and if that day comes in the future. So we're essentially training in that regard. The other thing we do is there's some intangibles that come out of the dynamics and the training that we work for here at Top Gun. It can be a very dynamic environment, very rapidly changing, and most, if not all, the responsibility relies on that flight lead or that student that's going through that particular syllabus. If he demonstrates the ability to understand what's going on, communicate well with his controller, make a smart tactical decision on what to do in that particular environment, that translates very well to most elements of combat, whether it be dropping bombs or assisting teams on the ground, or executing that air-to-air mission. Because it's so dynamic and so involved and requires so much proficiency and level of execution, if he's going to be good at that, he's going to be good at just about every element of combat, and we see that translate very well. And in the last two conflicts, we were able to demonstrate that, Navy and Marine Corps being very successful, executing different missions, but with the same guidelines there, making smart decisions and doing what was the best thing at that given time.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm David Burke, call sign Chip. And on behalf of Commander Rhett Butler and the entire staff here at Top Gun, I'd like to welcome you all to Class 0204's graduation exercise.
On the last day, we have a formal graduation ceremony in which we invite not only the class fighters, the AICs, and the adversaries, but their family if they were able to come in. It's a formal graduation in which we call everyone up, give them their certificate, shake their hand, tell them what a good job they've done, and then they're on their way. Trying to make it not too much of a long evolution. We've put the students through 9 weeks of pain, and typically they're ready to get home after that point. But we try to make it something that they will remember because it is a good achievement to complete the class, whether it's the class fighter side, the adversary side, or the AIC side.
Coming through the course is literally the best training that an air controller or a pilot or even a WISO could ever get. This is the best of the best that the Navy can offer for training-wise on all of those guys. When you graduate the course and go back to the fleet and you take those things that you've learned here in the course, it makes you a better controller, it makes the people that you're supervising better controllers. And then coming to the staff is just, it's a highlight of an OS's career. Nothing gets better for us than actually coming to the staff and be able to teach something that we actually love doing.
It was awesome. Just from knowing what I knew before to what I know now, for me, it really opened my eyes. You really understand what's going on. You know what the fighters are seeing and what their capabilities are. All the instructors are extremely knowledgeable and extremely professional, And I would definitely say this is the best training I've received since I've been in the Navy.
It's definitely a great experience, one that I'll definitely always cherish, no matter what I end up doing. Great bunch of guys, great training, definitely the best flying I've ever seen. Great experience.
It really has been everything that I thought it would be, and a little bit more oftentimes. School has been a great training opportunity. The guys here are very professional. They are the highest quality people and instructors, and it's been absolutely the best training that I could hope for.
Coming through here, I mean, in the movie they talk about, you're the best of the best. It's, that's pretty much straight up true. I mean, the instructors here, they're handpicked to come here, so you're just learning from the best, and you got nowhere else to go but up. I mean, these guys, they're awesome. I mean, learning from them, I mean, you'd be a fool, if you were to get upset that they, were critiquing you on something. You just take it and, put it in your hip pocket, and they make you so much better. I mean, I know just 9 weeks. I mean, it's not a long time, but 9 weeks, I know that I've just gotten infinitely better in the jet, and as far as being able to build and provide just a good, solid Red Air presentation.
Being the training officer out here is no doubt the best job that I've ever had. We have no doubt the best people that work here and come through the class, and they're very dedicated and very motivated to go out there and get the job done. We have a unique job in which we do a lot of training. We don't get to go out there and do practical application, which a lot of times is good. I mean, nobody wants to go out there and fight a war unless we have to. But it's nice to be in a place where our whole goal is to be able to do our job the best that we can. Because in the end, if we don't do our job the best way that we can, and the best way that needs to be done, then we die. And nobody wants to die out there. If we don't do our job, and a threat country gets a little more powerful, well, then we put America in danger. And definitely that's something we don't want to do. So having the motivated people out here to work with that goal in mind, success in combat, is our goal. Again, indirectly, we touch the fleet by teaching teachers to go out there and effectively teach the teach. We develop the tactics, though, that the Navy employs. It is a big responsibility. And our goal, again, is, first self-preservation and then making sure America lives strong. That is our ultimate goal, and that's what we're going to do.